Ever since it was announced that Solo Revive will return to the game, there's been a section of the community that is losing sleep over it. Well, fear no more. This video will give you some practical and salient advice on how to counter solo players, but wait. There is another section of the community that flips out if you even begin to disparage solo players, so just as a small reminder, I play as a solo like, I don't know, 50% of the time. If you play solo, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. Everyone just relax. Crytek will make changes as needed, and these solo changes can shift the meta loadouts too, which can help refresh the game, and we'll talk about that more later. Okay, before we get into the overview and advice, I'm gonna give you some homework, more home puns, because at the time of posting this video, Update 112 is still on the test server. So if you play normal Hunt this weekend, test one of these loadouts in your general matches and see how it affects your normal performance, where Solo Revive isn't a factor. Then you'll know if you're on the right track for preparedness. If this video helps you, be sure to send it to a friend, and you can comment your own loadout suggestion below the old subscribe button. Okay, to the overview. Update 112 changed some traits that now give solo players a buff. When playing solo, Serpent's range is now 50 meters, which you can use to snag clues and bounties in Darksight. Magpie allows you to carry 10 seconds of Darksight and loot 2 seconds from enemy hunters, again only for solo players. And the most controversial one and reason for this video, Necromancer allows solo players to revive after 10 seconds. That looks like this. In its current form, that is, as of Update 112, the number of times a solo player can revive is determined by the number of health chunks their hunter has. Basically, think of each health chunk as a life, or, said in a more confusing way, you can revive one less than the total. So, if a solo player has 3 health chunks, they can revive 2 times. That means every full health solo player has between 2 and 4 revives, depending on their health chunk setup. If Crytek changes something about this, I will update the pinned comment. Just like every other player, you can burn solos using lamps, firebombs, hellfire bombs, barrels, and oil slicks. They are just another player. Burn them and they will begin to lose health, and each bar gone is 1 less revive. However, with the lamps you find in the world, the fire effect only lasts about 20 seconds. The body will continue to burn after it has dissipated, but if the player revives after it's gone, the fire is extinguished, meaning you'll have to kill the solo again and burn their body again. When a solo player revives, they have 10 health, unless they have the trait Resilience, which we will talk about in a second. At 10 health, that means most forms of damage are enough to put the solo down, so you can hit them or shoot them again and they should die. You can also throw a poison bomb, which lasts 5 minutes, throw a concertina bomb, or place one of the lethal traps, either a bear trap, a concertina trap, or a poison trap. Also notice that placement matters here, so be sure to put the trap across their body. Each of these options should buy you enough time to find a lantern or throw a firebomb. However, keep in mind, with traits like Resilience and Salve Skin, you might need to be more patient. With Resilience, a solo player can revive with up to 100 health, meaning they can usually escape a poison cloud or take a few hits from Concertina and still heal. Also, if they have an antidote shot active, poison clouds will have no effect. So you really do want to combine poison or concertina with actually burning out the body, and if you have the time, make sure they stay down. But maybe you don't normally take concertina or poison, and that's okay. We will discuss some sillier fixes in a second, but let's talk about loadouts. So a typical loadout looks like this. You usually have your primary weapon, your secondary weapon, a melee tool, a medkit, jokes, and a silent ranged option, throwing knives, throwing axes, fusees, a flare pistol, something like that. If you just really hate getting caught off guard by solo players, you can switch one of your weapons for a variant with a melee attachment to free up a slot for traps. Here are all the options for 3-slot weapons. The Centennial Trauma has been really good to me lately, but they all have pros and cons. Here are the 2-slot options, slimmer pickings but not terrible, and the Romero Hatchet is good. And here are the 1-slot options, either the Claw or the Brawler pistols. You could also take the bow with concertina arrows, or a hand crossbow with poison bolts. One thing to note about weapons with melee variants, they do consume more stamina, so keep that in mind. Using one of these variants means you can free up a tool slot for either a concertina trap or a poison trap, both of which can give you enough time to find a lantern. But let's say you can't find a lantern and you've already used all your fire options. What can you do? Well, if you are desperate, you can also park a grunt near a body, which might swing on the enemy fast enough. If you break the grunt's legs, it might help you position them. You can also do the time-consuming option of emptying the solo player's weapon. This might also force them to revive, since soon they won't have ammo, and if the solo is in a place that isn't safe for you to watch, you can use a stalker beetle to guard the body as well. This could also work if the solo dies at a distance too far or too complicated to run to. Just like when the Stalker Beetle was introduced, many players thought it was the end of Hunt, but it turns out some pretty minor loadout adjustments are enough to counter the new addition. Maybe you don't always want to plan to fight solo players, and that's okay. You don't have to. But the limitations of your loadout has always been a consideration in Hunt Showdown, where you won't always be the best equipped for every scenario. I have seen a lot of people argue that the tool selection in the game is pretty stale, and finally we have something to shake things up. And that's it. Again, leave your loadout suggestions below, and until the next video, goodbye.